Hello everyone, my name is Ajay, and in this section we are going to continue our old lab, but we are going to see the same functionality when you start putting the workload in terms of EC2, which is going to be placed in these subnets what we created. So our lab remains same, our VPC, Virtual Private Cloud, CIDR block remains same 10.10.0.0/16. We get the IPv6 subnet, which is going to be /56, and you need to create or do the further assignment to your subnets. So if you recall, in our old lab, we have created a subnet which is going to be public-1 as IPv6 native. So /64 from this range will be allocated here. And one subnet, which is public subnet, that is going to be the dual stack. That means you're going to have IPv4 and IPv6. Before building the lab, let's verify existing configuration from the console. So I have deleted my default VPC, and that is the reason I see no VPCs found in this region. You have option to delete it. And now using the same script from Terraform, I created the previous lab. So in that lab, there are going to be two subnets. One is going to be the public. One is going to be the public-1. Public-1 is IPv6 native subnet, and public subnet where you're going to have IPv4 and IPv6 both. So that means it will become the dual stack. My first subnet, it is placed in 1V, and the second subnet is placed in 1C. That is the availability zone. I have created a Windows box, which is a EC2 instance, and I have placed that instance in public subnet. That means it is going to be the dual stack. So it is going to receive two IP addresses, not just two, it's going to be the three. One is going to be the private IP address from IPv4, then going to be the public IP address. So we can see the public IP address for this instance is going to be 3.86.225.205, and then you are going to have the private IP address start from your range which you have defined in VPC. Top of that, you are also going to get the IPv6 address, that is also a public address, and I have two default routes basically pointing towards IGW, one for IPv4, second for IPv6. If you recall it, while creating the EC2 instance, it asked for the security key pair. And if you have seen my previous videos, we created a key-demo. So from here, you can basically get your password. How we can get that? So you need to check this box on your EC2 instance, go to Actions, go to Security, and get Windows password. After clicking Get Windows Password, it is going to ask this file. So if you recall it, while we created the security key pair, we downloaded .pem file, which is basically kind of the text file. It is going to ask you to browse that particular file and decrypt the password. And once we hit the decrypt the password, it is going to show you the password which can be used to get into this instance. Once you hit decrypt the password, it is going to tell you this is a private IP address for this particular instance. Username is going to be the administrator, and this is going to be your password. You can copy this and close this window. Now I'm logged into the Windows machine what we created, and we can see there are two IP addresses got assigned. One is your IPv6 and one is your IPv4, and the public IP which comes from pip that can be seen on console. This is my default gateway, and the same information can also be seen here. The instance type is T2 micro, that is a free instance with 750 hours, comes under the free tier uses. Availability zone is 1B since this subnet belongs to 1B availability zone. And this also telling you the network performance is low to moderate. Let's now verify what is the DNS configured here. So I'm simply running a command and it's lookup, and it is going to tell me that the DNS server which is being used is 10.10.0.2. So if you recall it, there are first three IPs, those are not available for use. Those are reserved for multiple functionality. So .2 from that particular VPC range is going to be your DNS server. So this DNS server basically, it talks to further route 53, that is a AWS managed services. Couple of things to keep in mind. My IPv4 and IPv6 traffic, it can all go out, and the traffic from outside, it is all handled by your internet gateway. It supports both type of traffics. So I tried to ping this from a public hosted website, and this is my IPv6 address. When I hit the text, it all failed. We can see the losses are 100%. Then while troubleshooting, the first thing you need to check your security groups. So this is the security group basically which is assigned to my EC2 instance, and while creating this security group, while creating basically the EC2 instance, it is only going to allow 3389 from outside for a security reason. If you want to add something, or you want to delete something, or you want to deny something, you need to create your own rules. So while testing the ping ICMP for IPv6, since it failed, so there's a need to have a separate rule. So click on the add rule, all ICMP IPv6, that is going to be the type of traffic, port range all, anywhere IPv6, that means any source, and then you need to save the rules. Even when I did it, I was not able to ping it. Then I disabled the Windows firewall on EC2 instance, and it started working. These are the results, and now we can see it's a 0% loss, means I'm able to ping this IPv6 address from internet. Let's verify a couple of more properties on this EC2 instance from the console. So this is my EC2 instance, and now we can see there's a public IP address assigned to this instance, and there is no DNS assigned actually. This is my private IP DNS name. My instance state is running. This is part of VPC ID, and this is the subnet which is public. Instance type is T2 micro, and the first private IP which got assigned to this is 10.10.10.226. Now go to your virtual private cloud. In this case, it's going to be the demo. Check this box, go to the actions, and go to the edit DNS host names. With the current settings, DNS host name, it was not enabled. So I made it enable, and the moment you save the changes, you can see there is a public IPv4 DNS entry for this EC2 instance, which is on Amazon AWS.com domain. So you can use this domain, the FQDN, to access your EC2 instance from the internet. The second very important field is going to be your DHCP option sets, and that is a part of your virtual private cloud tab, and this comes by default. So that's how your EC2 instance get the internal domain name and the DNS resolver. In our case, we are going to create a new DHCP option set, which we are going to see in our lab. When we hit create DHCP option set, the first thing it is going to ask set name. So in my case, it is going to be the DHCP-demo, and then it is going to ask for the DHCP options. So we'll make this EC2 instance part of the domain name, which is going to be the technettalk.in. And I want to use DNS name server as 8888. Rest of the fields, I will leave it at the default. Though if you want to use any NTP server, etc., you can update it. Hit create DHCP option set. And when we go to our VPC edit DHCP option set, instead of this default, I'm going to use DHCP-demo, what we created just now, and save the changes. After attaching DHCP set, I'm going to reload this EC2 instance so it can take all the DHCP options what we have set. And once you reload it, now we can see the domain name it has taken is something what we have mentioned. IP addresses remain same, and we can see this is the DNS we want to use, which is 8888, and pointing to the Google. So that proves whatever the DHCP option sets we have configured, that is something working on these EC2 instances. If you have seen earlier lab, what we were doing, I placed the EC2 instance here, which is the dual stack, and I only had IGW. So all my IPv4 traffic and IPv6 traffic, it was going through IGW, what we tested. Now I'm going to tweak a little bit. I'm going to introduce a IPv6 ingress only gateway. What it mean, earlier, all my outbound traffic and all my incoming traffic, whether it's IPv4 or IPv6, was being handled by IGW. Now I still want to redirect my IPv4 traffic from IGW, which is this one. And now I'm not going to send any IPv4 v6 traffic basically to IGW. Instead of that, I'm going to redirect IPv6 traffic to ingress only gateway. What it means, maybe I have some sort of requirement where I need to download some sort of patches from the internet. So this outbound traffic is allowed, but nobody can initiate any traffic from internet to my IPv6. We'll see how it works when we validate it on the same instance. It's time to tweak our Terraform script a bit. So earlier we had a AWS Internet Gateway, which was handling my IPv6 and IPv4 traffic. Now, since I want to redirect all my IPv6 traffic to ingress only Internet Gateway, so I need to add another resource, which is going to be this one. Simply create this resource, attach it to the same VPC, save the changes, and do Terraform init, Terraform apply, and enter the value as so that it can amend the changes. Now we can see it is creating your egress only internet gateway, which is successfully added here. The next portion, what we need to do, earlier we had this route table created and it had got two routes. One was for IPv4, one was for IPv6, and they both were pointing to internet gateway. Now my IPv4, it still points to IPv4 internet gateway, and my IPv6 route, it points to egress only internet gateway. Let's try to commit all these changes so we can see there's a one added. After doing the commit, we can see there's no additional resource added, but there's a one change, which is basically going to be the routing table. Let's now test the outbound connectivity from IPv6. So when you do the NS lookup for Google, it is going to return you IPv6 and IPv4 addresses. Now I'm going to ping the v6 address, which I can see I can reach out successfully. That means my v6 connectivity, it works. Second thing, as I mentioned, you need to ensure you are going to allow IPv6 from internet. That is going to be your inbound rules. So you can see it. I have allowed all the IPv6 coming from any source on the internet. That means my connections which is being formed from internet should work. The firewall option on the Windows, that is already disabled. So let's try to test it. This IP address which is configured on EC2 instance, when I hit the test button, I see there's 100% loss, means it's not reachable from outside, and that is something what is expected. If you take a look on the routing table, we can see my default route for IPv4, that is pointing to our old EGW, and default route for IPv6, it is pointing to egress internet gateway, and that is something what is expected as well. Just to ensure that that is happening just because of the routing table, we can edit it also. So this IPv4, it remains same when we talk about IPv6. If I point it back to the internet gateway and then try to test it from the outside, we can see the moment we point it to internet gateway, this IP address is reachable. So that proves the moment you point this IPv4 to IGW, this IP is going to be reachable from internet. And the moment you point it to your egress only, it doesn't work. So nobody can initiate any traffic from internet to this IPv6 address. And that was the lab for the today. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.